Welcome to the Progressive Mind Show here. Today we are blessed to have in the studios three wonderful personalities that are going to be talking about STEM. STEM would be explained to you a little bit, but STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. We want to talk about how what role it plays in our society, first of all, and how it's lacking in our minority communities, the effects of the lack, even if it is lacking in the first place. So please stay tuned. I'll start from my extreme right. Mavis D. Boama is my own friend, my own sister. She is a PhD candidate in chemistry at Northwestern University, Chicago. Welcome to the show, Mavis.
Thank you.
And then next to her, we have Meredith Brozas, who has master's degree. She also has a bachelor's degree. She is an educational programs and outreach manager at Argon National Laboratory. A little bit background about Meredith Brozas. Okay. She joined Argon in August 2013 and oversees the educational programs and outreach department that currently reaches over 30,000 youth and families. She also connects with over 4,000 middle and high school students and supports over 450 undergraduates and 450 graduate students in internship and employment opportunities each year. Prior to joining Argonne, Ms. Brozas was the STEM administrator for Chicago Public Schools CPS, where she developed the model for the first STEM school supported 32 technology academies in their development and implementation of technology enhanced learning and oversaw key technology pilot programs throughout the district. She has so many accolades here. If you want to go into them, it will take half of the show. So all you got to know is that she's a wonderful and strong lady who has supported and played leadership roles, administrative, teacher and educator. She's also a researcher, a developer, classroom coach, and a teacher who gives her unique view on STEM education and how to address the need for developing STEM talent. Next to her is my own brother, Peter Winfred Misa. He has a master's degree in science and currently a cloud computing and engineering architect. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome once again.
Thank you.
Mavis, so if you are not, currently you are a researcher at Northwestern, is that correct? If you're not doing that and if you're not in church, doing church stuff,
Oh my goodness.
how is your day-to-day like? I mean, what do you like to do if you're not teaching?
If I'm not teaching or not in the lab or not at church, I would like not to be in Chicago.
Because of the weather, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd rather take a vacation somewhere,
All right.
just go relax and have fun.
So you like traveling?
I like traveling a lot.
All right. Meredith, if you're not teaching and educating and working on STEM, you want to tell us about family and what life is after work or besides work?
I have a very long commute, so I spend a lot of time in the car talking to friends and family via phone. But more recently, I just started a hobby in improv. So once a week, I go to improv classes.
Okay. Meredith, it belongs to a family of 3, 4.
I have a younger brother and a dog.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah.
You didn't tell us about family.
Oh, goodness. So I come from a family of 7. So I have 4 siblings, dad and mom. And yeah.
Are you the first?
I'm the first.
You look like a first. From
Really?
your actions, I can tell.
Okay.
You have these leadership qualities. My brother Kobe, if you're not doing STEM, what are you doing? If you're not working on computer stuff.
A lot of times sometimes I just stay at home and sometimes, try to go to the gym, do some running.
Okay.
And if I get the chance to travel to New York, spend some time with my friends out there.
Okay.
So that's, basically what I do most of the time. And then sometimes volunteer a little bit.
Okay. So let's begin with a conversation of STEM. And I'll start with Meredith. You represent Argonne National Laboratory. First of all, what is this organization? What does it stand for and what have you been doing regarding STEM in the minority communities?
Great questions. Argonne National Lab is one of 17 national labs that is funded and run by the Department of Energy. So,
Yes.
and we're what is called an interdisciplinary lab. So we have everything from chemistry to various kinds of physical science to nuclear science to cybersecurity. Computer science. We do projects and research on things that what we call the grand challenges. So earlier today we were talking about the need for energy storage, and you mentioned the battery. So we've developed technology that is in the Chevy Volt battery, and are trying to develop the next battery that will, hopefully, make us not ever have to charge a cell phone, right? Those kinds of things. We have on site, we have a very large synchrotron called the Advanced Photon Source. We have one of the fastest supercomputers in the country, and soon we'll upgrade it to be one of the fastest supercomputers in the world. And so we're a place that not only does science and does research on these grand challenges, but we also open our space to users, people who are doing science in other locations and need access to these big pieces.
Who are your competitors in terms of what you do?
We don't really have competitors other than other national labs, and we
Right,
have
that's what I wanted to ask. Yeah,
Yeah.
what are these national labs?
So the 17 national labs are around the country. Illinois is actually lucky to have two. So our sister lab is Fermi Lab, which is just 30 miles even further kind of west from where Argonne is in Lamont. There's 3 in California. There's 1 in New York. I don't know if you know Brookhaven out in New York. There's Oak Ridge in Tennessee. So they're kind of scattered all over the country.
Okay.
They originated from, very interesting for those that are interested in historical activities that happened in science. It kind of started from the Manhattan Project. Yeah, she's shaking her head. She's like, yeah, started from the Manhattan Project, and we've since moved on from there.
Okay. Mavis, I saw you nodding to her when she was talking about it. So you know about these national labs.
Yeah.
Okay, what are their mandates? Why were they set up in the first place?
Okay, so from what I get from it, they usually do research for government. So most of, like she said, most of their research is centered towards things that the government wants. So in terms of energy, in terms of things to do with military, in terms of environmental protection, a whole bunch of things. And so they look at things ranging from, biology to chemistry to math to everything that you can think of in the science area. And so they really care about the U.S. citizen, making the U.S. citizen's life better. And that's done through the government and funded by the government.
So this nation has set up laboratories that would develop stuff regarding STEM, right? Science and technology that would enhance the development of the country and the people and whatnot.
Yes.
Okay. So my brother Kobe, I'll call you Kobe for the person because I know you, but of course you were Peter.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
That works.
That works?
Yeah.
What is STEM?
It's like you said earlier, it's like science, technology, engineering, and math. And, the interesting thing about STEM is since all of us are STEM, I guess we can be biased today. Because there's always like a debate which, program is big in school or in college. But STEM is like, anywhere you go, you might not see it, but STEM is there. Anywhere you pass, whether it's transportation, whether it's retailing, whether it's like, for example, now, Target has this new thing where you can just, download the app, start shopping, and these are all technology stuff. Whether even in music is, so anywhere you go, you see STEM out there. So it's like you just can't do without STEM. I say STEM is just day-to-day life that we all live, and it's just so happened that how it gets presented to some people, sometimes it looks like this scary thing from
from Mars or something.
Exactly. But STEM is every day.
From what you all just said, STEM has always been with us. It seems as though some of us in the minority communities or some folks in the minority community are just now catching up with it. But it has always played a significant role in our lives. And so let's talk about some of the numbers or the stats regarding STEM in minority communities. And I guess that's what we want to zero our conversation on today. Anybody wants to take that on? when it comes to what are the numbers looking like in the minority communities when it comes to STEM?
Okay, I guess I'll just start. So I was really interested in the share of degrees that go to minorities.
Okay.
So talking about bachelor's, master's, and doctorate in STEM areas. And so in the minority community, so talking about blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So you have 11.59% of degrees going to women for bachelor's, right?
Okay, nationwide.
Nationwide.
Okay.
So just 11.59%. And then for the men, we have 8.12% for the bachelor's. For the master's, women have 8.56%. The men have 5.78%. That's for master's. Then when you get to doctorate level, it gets less. So we have 4.51% for the women and 2.76% for the men. So the women are doing better in the doctorates than the men, just saying. But we do have a problem because when we look at the U.S. population, the minority percentage is definitely greater than 10%. And so if you're getting a share, the share of the degrees is less than 10%, that means we are not really participating. We just taking a side view and looking at what's going on and just interested in the products that the STEM give us. We love our iPhones, we love our computers, but do we think about what goes into it? Why do I have this product? Who made this possible? Can I be a part of it? And I think that's where the conversation needs to go.
I love that. Can I be a part of it? Because if you're not part of it, you are just a consumer, and if you're a consumer, you don't have leverage. I mean, consumers will just consume, but the maker is who has control and is who call the shots, right?
Yeah, and to add to that, the National Science Board released Revisiting the STEM Workforce Report, and in 2011 they looked at 29 million STEM jobs out there. Just to give you a reference, there was 142 million jobs in general, right? So that's about 18% of the jobs available. But what they did is an interesting thing is they looked at the number of people, of the people who graduated in STEM degrees and then where they ended up in a job. And it's this really interesting graph, and we could post it to Facebook at some point, that shows that people who have non-STEM degrees have a limited opportunity in the job. They have the non-STEM jobs, right? So if you have a business major, you have a lot of opportunity in the business field, maybe a little bit in the financial field. If you have a physics or chemistry degree, you can go into finance, you can go into business,
Right.
you can go, like, the STEM degree, whether you stay in STEM for the rest of your life and continue on as a researcher or other kinds of opportunities, it's not limiting. It's actually very opening. So, and it, if you have a bachelor's, master's, or PhD, you kind of have a lot of opportunities there.
Did Kobe wanted to chime in on that?
Yes. So based, so some of the numbers that Mavis talked about. The interesting thing about a lot of these numbers is like one of the statistics that I read. It was like about 63% of let's say all foreign borns that go into STEM and get degrees. The statistics showed them to be Asians.
Okay.
So. And then also in terms of the jobs, they tend to get most of the jobs. And so, like, even if you take that small percentage that she gave, and then you take 63% of it, then you can see that. Meanwhile, like, if you project the population, let's say Hispanics, is now like 14%, blacks 12.5%,
right,
and native. If you put it together and then you do the math, then you can just see that it's just really, really very less in these
minority communities.
Exactly. Yeah. And we surely need to do something about it.
So the statistics is giving us numbers on African American, Hispanic. Obviously there aren't specific numbers when it comes to African and Caribbean communities, right? And you and I can know without numbers. You and I can attest to the fact that this is a big gap within the African and Caribbean communities. And so, why is there this big gap, and what should we be doing as minority folks, including African American, including African and Caribbeans, to catch up on STEM?
Okay, so I think STEM starts from when you're young, right? So what you're exposed to. I mean, you can get exposed to it in the course of you being a teenager in high school or in college. But where you really get people interested in science is when they are young. If I'm to use myself as an example, I grew up in Ghana, by the way. And those times in Ghana, we had what we call they probably still do have it, the National Science and Math Quiz.
Yeah.
And that was on Saturdays at 12. And I was just fascinated by the idea that people will be using 30 seconds to solve complex math problems. And that alone was just enough for me to just make sure that by 12 noon in the afternoon, I'm by the TV waiting to hear the math questions so that I can solve it within the 30-second time that was allotted to the contestants. And so seeing those things on TV and seeing people like Professor Irama Adi on TV, that was just like
motivating.
I want to do this.
And she's a female too.
She's a female. So I want to do this. But then you realize that, yes, you want to do this, and you realize there are no resources around you, right? And so you're interested in it, and you probably get the numbers, you get the facts that are being presented to you, or you may not even get the facts, but you like the applicatory side. But gratefully, that was during then, but gracefully, now we have our phone apps that allow us to do a whole bunch of stuff. You can do STEM on your phone these days. We didn't have that when we were growing up. So I think when I was growing up, it was really about the access and the resources and getting the people around you to motivate you to get into it. But now we have the resources, we have the access to a degree, but now we just don't know how to make use of them. And so I think that's the issue. Or we also have people that have grown up in the society and they have other interests and we don't see ourselves. So if I grew up in a community where a lot of people are not interested in STEM, they have other interests, they are going to be my role models. That's what I'm going to look for. But if I have people that are into STEM, and they're encouraging me to do it, then I would see myself becoming that kind of person. And so it's a multifaceted problem, and we just need to take a different approach towards it. There are people that just think this is way too hard because that's what's been told. Math is hard, science is hard, and so I just cannot do it. But at the end of the day, when you get through the high school stuff, when you get through the college, even when you get to college, it really comes down to being creative and thinking creatively. Because it's not about regurgitating facts anymore or numbers. It's really being creative and thinking about problems in a different way, because that's how society gets to move forward. That's why we no longer use Nokia 3310 and we have our nice phones now, because people started thinking creatively. How can we make this better? How can we move forward? And so I just want to say that people shouldn't be limited by what they see around them. Just move out of your community and see what's also available to you. Make use of the resources around you. We have the Museum of Science here in Chicago, and I was recently talking to a few people, and I asked them, have you ever been to the Museum of Science in Chicago? And they said no. I'm like, you were born here and you've never been to the Museum of Science? How's that possible? So as parents, as we're training these kids, we have all these things that are available to us. There are going to be societies and schools that are about science. Let's get them involved. On Facebook, let's not just spend so much time on Facebook without really getting to know what's happening in the back end. Yes.
Okay.
Follow NASA on Facebook and you get to know more about science.
Look, excellent point, Mavis. Now that you've mentioned your role, your journey into STEM, maybe I'll have Meredith come in. Of course, in this country, I didn't grow up here, but had there been a point in the history of this country or the history of STEM where it was already it had been a male-dominated field? I'm thinking, from my research, I feel like STEM had always been a male-dominated industry or field, even in this country. If that is true, Meredith, how did you get in? How did you gain the interest to get into STEM? And whilst you went in it, knowing that it's a male-dominated field, whilst you were in it, where were your challenges, and how did you overcome these challenges?
Those are really great questions. So I grew up on the south side of the city, working class, blue collar kind of community.
South side, you said?
South side.
What block?
I lived in Dalton.
Okay.
I'm based from Dalton.
Okay.
Out there in Dalton.
All right.
Thornton Township High School. And so I just had parents that took me places. My mom was a teacher, and she would have field trips in the summer for the kids in the neighborhood, and she would make the parents sign permission slips so she knew that their parents was going to go. And we had a station wagon. She'd fill us in the station wagon. We'd go to the Museum of Science Industry, the Shedd Aquarium, things like that. And so I took a trip to SeaWorld and kind of fell in love with orca whales. And so I always wanted to be a marine biologist. That's what got me into STEM. I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay.
Until I actually got a chance to do it and realized it was a lot of cutting of fish. And it wasn't that exciting, and it was very isolating. And so I think I'm a product of the research that shows if women don't have opportunities to connect or give back, they don't find, even though they're very, very smart and capable of doing the work. My internship was taking the opercular bones of a fish. If anyone fishes out there, you stick your fingers in the fins, right, or in the gills. That bone flap is an opercular bone. My internship was to boil the flesh off of those things, because as fish grow, they make a ring on there, and that's how you can tell the age of a fish. So when they were doing research on a fish population, they wanted to know what was the relative age of that catch. And so I found that very isolating, and it was a predominantly all male team, and they didn't really make way for me to be engaged with them. They kind of ignored me. And so early in the process, I felt very isolated. And coming from a family of teachers, the backup plan was, while you're getting your degree in ichthyology, with the vision of going on to marine biology, pick up your teaching degree. And so my thought was, when I graduate and go to get a job, I'll send out all the job postings for biology, and then I'll send out all the job postings for teaching. And the only jobs I got response back was from teaching. So that was the path I took. And I think it probably was better fit for my personality. But in the STEM field, there isn't a lot of opportunity for people to get connected. There's a lot of research and work that we're doing at Argonne is about kind of breaking down silos, operating opportunities. And one of the ways we do that at Argonne is we have a massive volunteer program where our scientists go out into communities and talk to schools and kids to help feed that part of your need to maybe be connected, give back, while you're still doing your bench science. So.
Quickly, if you can answer this question quickly, and then I'll go to Kobe. Whilst you were in it and you realized, okay, this is not too much of a comfortable field because of male dominance, what kept you going? What gave you the tenacity? Of course, I want to know how you were able to go through the challenges. Just so if a young girl is listening out there.
I really think if you put your mind to something, you need to finish it. So if I would have stopped halfway through, I wouldn't be where I am today, because more opportunities came to be. So we deal with a lot of interns, and I talk to them, and they're in the middle of, I don't know, do I want to be chemistry or physics? And this is really hard, and I'm struggling here. But I do like this, and I'm really good at that. I tell them to finish what they start, because you never know when you're going to go back and you're going to have that experience. So I was an awful computer programmer, and just recently I actually could talk to computer programmers on a project we're working on, because I had the very limited understanding of their world, right? I don't know how to computer program, but I know how they think, because I was forced to take some computer programming at some time. So,
was there a time where you felt like quitting?
All the time. I think everyone needs to know that there's some point in someone's life where they're like, why am I doing this?
Okay.
But you have to just power through and finish.
And then you felt the same way, Mavis?
Not really.
Not really?
Oh,
You've always loved science? Okay.
Yeah, but then listen, because for me it came to a point where I was torn in terms of, because I was good at math. And I was also good at science. So the question was going to business or going to science. So I was torn.
Your parents wanted to do business?
No.
They wanted to keep doing
science. Yeah.
Okay. Kobe.
Way to go, Mom and Dad. Huh?
I'm usually, as Africans, Ghanaians, when we're growing up, there isn't much encouragement when you want to, when you in the science field. Well, I get it. Parents want you to be a doctor, be an engineer, and all that. But the science field was always projected to be something. Oh, you can't go there; it's very difficult. It's the math and all that. For you, was it challenging? And if it was, how were you able to break through it? And before you start, what was your interest? What gave you the impetus to try to go into STEM?
I think I kind of a little bit close to what piggyback on what Mavis said earlier. I kind of liked that science and math quiz thing, and my father is old school father, and the only time he signs off on me watching TV was that show.
Math and science quiz.
Yeah. Any other show, there's going to be a debate. You have to give him 10 reasons why you're watching it. It was the only show that my father can say, and even tell my mother, let him watch it for 1 hour. So even if I didn't want to do anything, just go and watch that show. So, I started watching too, and I also got interested, like, I didn't know what those people were doing, but just the fact that people were putting up their hands and, answering questions, I was like, this thing sounds fun. And so then at some point in time, there was an event I remember I went to where they brought like doctors, nurses. It's like a big hall in, Achimota area. And then this lady comes out there. She's, they're wearing the white coat. And just like that, I'm like, I want to be like this lady. So I from that, at least when you're young, you surely need those things in your life to kind of connect you to it.
Right.
And then once you get connected, then you start, finding the path. And then once you're in, when it comes to the difficulty part of it, it was like, I feel like a lot of times, my perspective is like, sometimes I feel like teachers, the way they teach sometimes, creates a problem. Because sometimes from my understanding over the years, I feel like the teacher should always be pointing to the horizon instead of, limited. Because sometimes, as you can see, there are kids that they might be good in, say, middle school. And then others might not be so good in middle school. And then they get to high school and then they start peaking. And then some guy gets to college and they're off the chart, And I think that if the teachers can keep putting that into the young kids, that listen, I'm a teacher. My goal is to point you to the horizon. Even if you're down here, keep your eyes up there because you are still young, like 10 years old, 15 years old. Your brain is still growing and you're going to get interest over time. And it's part of what I think makes it difficult, if you ask me, in terms of the classroom area. And that the teachers, because most teachers are trained to look for A's and B's, right? But some people it takes time. And a lot of time, those that it takes time, by the time they get to the, master's and PhD level, they're always going to be the ones doing big stuff. So that's what happened to me. And then I got interested in chemistry and physics and math. And then from there, I was off. Like, I was just going nuts.
Right.
I didn't even want to sleep anymore.
Right.
My father has to come and take the book in the night. So that's what happened.
If you just join into the Progressive Mind Show, we are talking STEM in the minority communities. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. These four letters play a very significant role in our lives, actually affects every aspect of our life. If you sleep with the light on, if you charge your phone battery, if you drive your car, I don't know any part of our life that STEM does not affect. And why it's not the biggest conversation that we should be having in the minority communities, more so African, Caribbean communities and African countries, I don't understand why. But I know there are a few folks who are doing genius work when it comes to science, STEM in Ghana, and we will go into some specifics. I have a few names here. So if you have a question or if you want to contribute to this conversation, it's 773-942-7167. We're still here with us beautiful ladies and gentlemen, Mavis, Meredith, and Peter, discussing this issue. So, Meredith, Argon, we know what Argon is. What has been your policy regarding minority communities in terms of STEM enhancement or STEM development?
So I'm fairly new to Argonne. So I'm celebrated, I think, my 5-year mark.
Okay.
And I was
a long time, 5
It is
years.
it is a long time. Though at Argonne World, it seems a little small.
A little small, okay.
We have people that are there for like 40, 50 years. So I'm
Chris,
young. I'm new.
I guess Chris has been there forever.
No.
Oh, okay.
Him and I came in at the same time.
All right.
So one of the things that I was really passionate about when I first came to look at how are we going to reach actually minority communities more. So kind of taking my Chicago public school background and merging the two. One of the unique things about Argon Education, so Argon Education, as mentioned earlier, sees roughly 35,000 people a year through our programming. We do youth and family programming where we go to STEM fests and we come out to the community. We bring scientists out to the community. We run competitions for students. And here's my shameless plug. We actually have slots available for the middle school electric car competition. We're specifically partnering with community-based after-school programming. So if somebody out there is interested in signing up for that electric car competition, we send you the kit. All you have to do is get kids together and build it, and then come to the Museum of Science Industry with us and run your car in the car race. So we do competitions, we do visits to STEM Fest. There's a local school recently over here in McClellan that just asked us if science fair judges could come out. So we come out and we do things in the community. But what we also do is partner with great things that are happening in the community. So Argon Education is a pipeline program to help keep people in the STEM pipeline, getting them excited early on in middle school and high school, giving them opportunities to have a taste of what it might be like to do research and kind of explore their possibilities, and then eventually pipeline them into internship programs. And we don't claim to be a school system. We don't claim to own school, because that's not something that we can do really well, but we can partner with people in communities that are doing great work. One of the local communities that we partner with is the Austin community. A shout out to the
on the west side.
On the west side, Austin STEM, the STEM Center, Project Exploration runs it, and we partner with them where they kind of maintain that relationship in the community, but we come out and bring programming. So we'll come out and bring specific programming that's Argonne specific. So we bring those opportunities and resources and experiences to the community to then kind of give them a flavor. And then when they get really excited, we say, well, why don't you come out for a visit to the lab? Why don't you come out and once we build that local relationship, we then can help find the Mavises in the group and say, hey, come on over and come on over and see what we do and see what's interesting in our space. And so we really see ourselves as connectors and enhancers of STEM education. Because we can't, I came from Chicago Public Schools. I can't take on the STEM challenge in the city with what we do at Argonne, but we can enhance and support what's going on in communities.
What are you trying to achieve at the end of the day by doing what you're doing, by doing this community work that you're doing? What's the end goal?
Oh, we're very, very, very lucky to have the Department of Energy sponsor most of our programs.
Okay.
So we are kind of a government program, and so all of our programs are essentially free. Or if you do an internship, you get paid, and all that funding comes from the government. And so our end goal is to build a STEM workforce.
Okay.
Our end goal is, and so all 17 national labs has a mission to build a STEM workforce and to create a diverse STEM workforce.
Diverse STEM workforce.
A diverse STEM workforce is part of actually our mission.
Good. Do you see a gap between minority communities and other ethnic groups when it comes to STEM? And is that part of the reason why you were doing this
yes.
community outreach programs?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think there's a gap in what I would say is the accessibility, not the ability of the individuals.
Right.
We meet some amazing people.
That's what I meant.
It's the hey, you've been selected for an internship. Oh, I don't have a car to get out there. Right. It's the I also have to have a second job, or so it's kind of the difficulties of the situation, and then we're like, well, if we found you a ride, if we found you a car share, if we found you something like that, and so it just that kind of is another layer of difficulty for that individual, in addition to just starting a new internship.
Okay.
So so one of the cool things we have is on-site housing. So if I can get you on site and get you a housing slot.
Oh, wow.
Then
on-site housing.
On-site housing at Argonne if you get an internship.
And everybody qualifies for it?
Well, I only have so many beds, so when they get filled, you know.
What are the criteria for you to qualify for?
Depending, we have 23 different internship programs, so it depends on there's certain programs that are guaranteed on-site housing and certain programs aren't.
And the age doesn't matter.
Oh, no, this is only undergrad and grad.
Okay, so undergrad.
We do summer camps for high school or high school and middle school kids that are on site, and then we do our outreach programming, like I tell competitions and things for when we go out to the community.
Does it matter at all one's immigration status if they are interested in these types of programs?
In general, no, just another layer of paperwork.
Okay.
So yeah, we just an extra week or two of time to process paperwork.
Somebody's 45, 35, but hey, I've always had a passion for STEM. This is my time. Or Argonne is, where can I get help? When they reach out to Argonne because of their age group and their educational status, they might not get a chance, right? Since it's only for undergrad, like you said.
Well, there are community tours, so if you just want to kind of come and see what's available, there's community tours that you can participate in. But in terms of the internships, you have to be a full-time student in school.
Well, maybe in the future.
Doesn't matter how old you are, you just have to be a full-time student.
Full-time student.
Yeah.
Okay.
In an accredited university.
Well, hopefully the government will give you more money. So you design specific programs for anybody else, regardless of your education or your age background. If you're interested in STEM, come to Argonne and we got you. Hopefully.
Well, here I'll put a thought out there. If there is a community group that would like a scientist to come out and talk to them, we actually do send scientists out to community groups. So I know I'm here to talk about education, but we could hook you up with a scientist who somebody's holding a group and wants to talk about computer science or things of that nature.
Kobe and Mavis. Do you see a gap between the especially African community and other ethnic groups, like you mentioned, Asia, Europeans, even the Arab communities and the others? And if you notice if there is a gap, what can we do to close that gap? I'll start with Kobe.
Yeah, definitely there is a gap between, because like for example, when I finished my master's in electrical engineering, that year that we thought was a great year.
What year was this?
2015.
Okay.
We thought it was a great year because we had, lots of blacks, African Americans, graduating, and Africans in the Caribbean. And that year was only 4 of us in the class.
Out of how many?
Out of about, maybe I'll say for electrical engineering, maybe 70.
Only five of you.
4
or 5.
Yeah.
And even that was the highest number.
And we took a lot of pictures.
And you were saying that was the highest number.
It was.
What school is this?
This is SUNY Binghamton.
Okay.
And this was like it's supposed to be the following year. The number was probably like 1 or 2. And like for example, if you go out there, a lot of universities, even faculties, hardly you see it. So, like for example, you're going to see a good amount of, let's say Chinese professors, Indian professors, but I'm so far I'm yet to see a faculty member who in my school who is black or Caribbean. You don't see it. So, you might see 1 or 2 of them, probably like sociology, stuff like that. But when it comes to the science, you don't see many of them. So chemistry, I know there's one Nigerian professor out there. She's doing great. But the numbers are just very tiny. So right from there, you see that big gap. Because a lot of times, sometimes it's hard to relate stuff to. So I'll give you a good example, for example. So, my friend shared the story. 2 people, he's a TA. One guy comes and talks to him. Hey, my father wants to pick me up from Syracuse for a wedding. He's sending his private plane to pick me up. Can I get a day off? And then the TA said, yeah, you can go. And then the other kid comes in, hey man, I don't have food to eat. I need to go back to Harlem and see if I can get some little money from my grandma. And that's his situation. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff that people deal with. And then on top of it, you have that faculty gap. So it makes it very difficult to connect and relate and talk about, real stuff. And sometimes when how like we're talking earlier, when you run through difficulties, sometimes even yourself, you might have a little doubt on yourself sometimes. And so sometimes if you don't have that strong connection with the faculty member as to, hey, for him or her to say, hey, man, no, don't worry about it. I know you can do it. And sometimes that alone, it just makes you take a step back, and before you know, the person falls off and they can't finish the program. So it's been a lot of, challenges that people have. But in terms of the numbers, I can say for sure is big. I think that one of the things that maybe we can do, of course, this program, what you're doing is a great start. One of the things that I think we can do is to hopefully we can get more into the field, because that's the only way we can, try. And then hopefully, like, her program, for example, bringing in more people into the field, trying to do research. Then gradually we can get a few faculties here and there. And then maybe over time we can have that critical mass before we can, have. But surely,
there's a big gap.
It sure is.
There's a big gap. Maybe
there is.
You wanted to comment on this?
Oh,
okay,
definitely.
All right.
So, I mean, if we're to talk about the gap in general, I would say that for most of my classes through college, or even back to when I was in high school in Norway, you find yourself being, the only black woman in the class, in higher math. Like, what are you doing here, Mavis? But the thing is, like, again, you don't see people like you, and so people say, this is not for me, this is not for people like me, so I wouldn't even look at it. But what really can make the difference, and what made the difference for me, was the fact that when I realized this is something I'm interested in, I started to ask questions. I started to seek for more information. And so when I was in college, in my first, for our first summer, and I was talking to a friend, I was like, what are you going to do for the summer? And she said, I'm applying to, do you know about NSF REUs? I was like, what's that? And she said, well, you apply for a summer internship and you get paid for that and you get to do research. I was really attracted to the payment. I'm like, I'm not going to stay at home for 3 months and not do nothing, or just trying to find some job that's not related to anything I'm interested in. If I'm going to do an internship and I'm going to get paid for that, and it's going to be something that I have some interest in, why not?
Right.
And so I applied for that. And that's where it got started, And so and most of these things, you discover them through the emails that these universities send. When you're in college, they blast you with a bunch of emails. And our tendency most of the time is to click read when we've not really read them, because we're like, what's this email about? What's the another crazy email? But please do look through them, because most of these emails might contain information that might help you for your summer internships. Like she said, at Argonne, they have fantastic programs there. You could also pair up with professors at Northwestern as an undergrad. Come work for, some of the leading professors in chemistry, in physics, and engineering. Just be there. You don't have to know everything about science. You don't have to know every math problem out there. You just have to be willing to learn, and there'll be people out there to teach you, to help you get used to what it is to do science. And so I would say just take the step and ask questions when you're taking classes. So when you're taking a math class or you're taking a chemistry class, the tendency is that when we do not understand something, we do not want to ask questions, because we feel people might think that we're dumb. There's no dumb question. Like one of my professors in college said, there's nothing like a dumb question. Feel free. Even if you're shy, just go to office hours. Take advantage of that. Don't be scared of your professors. They are there to help you. That's what they're being paid for. And so if you're paying that amount of money to go through college, or somebody, hopefully you have a scholarship or you're getting a student loan, it's still money being paid. So make use of it, because that's the professor's job, to help you get to know your material better. So talk to professors. They have so many opportunities. And most of the things that you realize in this country is really true connection. It's because somebody got something because they knew somebody, I was just recently reading a current research that was saying that most job opportunities, most people get jobs because they know somebody.
I think 85% or 75% of job success is based on your connections.
Yes.
Or networking.
Yes. And so do talk to your professors. Hey, I'm interested in this thing. I would like to take it further. What do you suggest I do? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. So that's what I'll say to people in college. And for the parenting side, expose your kids to all sort of things in science. Don't be one way. Expose them to a wide range. We have the Museum of Science in Chicago. In February, they're going to have the Black History Month. And so they're going to do a lot of programs centered around the Black community, and you're going to have Black people that are in science, so from doctors to engineers to chemists to physicists. Take advantage of that. If you're willing to know more about it, I'm willing to talk to people about it, because I do take part in that.
Okay.
And that's something that we all can get connected to
bridge the gap.
To bridge the gap.
Okay. It's 56 minutes past 7 p.m. here in Chicago. The weather is still about 44 to 45 degrees, and we are going to take a short commercial break. So Ina Stenner says, I got here late and don't know what all I missed. The direction and such. But speaking of STEM in minority communities, are we talking about high school, college, adult education? A few years ago, a friend had told me about someone who had someone had came to speak. Let me try and make sure I can get up. She said, a few years ago, a friend had told me about someone came to speak with her seniors group about a free basic plan to teach seniors how to use computers. I think most elementary schools are integrating STEM in their program. After many years, I started to continue my education and think for sure they have good program at Kennedy King. I'll let you respond to this, but not before I read Sierra Miller's question. She said, do you all think it's easy or easier to get into master's or doctoral program in a STEM field without prior experience in those fields if you are a minority? Who wants to take this question first?
Okay, I'll take the second question because I wasn't sure what the
The first one, okay.
I'll take the second one.
And I'll go back to the second one. The first one.
Okay, cool. So it really depends on what you want, right? What's your end goal at the end of the day? When people ask me, should I go for a master's or should I go for a doctorate? Which one is easier? And so you have to think, so if you're in engineering and you really are not that interested in research, you just want to go into industry, and then you just want to have, work with industries and just transition from working with the industry and becoming part of the corporate organization, so going more into leadership opportunities, then you probably might just want to do a master's and get an MBA later on. But if you're interested in hardcore research, then you probably want to get a doctorate. So if you want to go into professorship and be part of academia and people who really develop the academia field, then you really want to get a doctorate. Now, is it easier to get a master's enroll into a master's program or a doctorate program? It really depends on the school, right? So it's not a straightforward thing. So if you're applying to, say, top 10 schools, it doesn't matter whether it's a master's or a doctorate. It's going to be difficult. It's because it's competitive. Everybody's competing for the same number of space, right? So Northwestern, for instance, probably has an acceptance rate that's below 10% for its graduate school program. And so if you're applying, you know that you're competing for, a small number of spaces with a huge number of people. So you just have to make sure that you have all the credentials. And so if it's, participating in some sort of internship, that's where Argon becomes helpful. So we have somebody here from Argon today. So you want to link up with such a person and make sure you get an internship at Argon. You want to make sure that you do well on your GREs. You want to make sure that you have good grades in college. And that also matters for, applying for master's programs. So you want to think, number one, you want to think about what's the end goal. Number two, you just want to make sure you have good credentials, no matter what you're applying to, master's or doctorate.
Okay. The first question is, she's asking, a few years ago, a friend had told me about someone came to speak with her seniors group about a free basic plan to teach seniors how to use computers. I think most elementary schools are integrating STEM in their program. After many years, I started to continue my education and think of and think for sure they have good programming at Kennedy King. Okay, I guess hers is not a typical question. She's just making a statement, of course, maybe just buttressing or supporting what we are talking about. But you mentioned Chicago free, something about Chicago City offering some free teaching. What's the name of the program again?
So Chicago, in and of itself, the Chicago area is one of the top 3 STEM ecosystems in the country. So we have a ton of after-school programs. A couple of years ago, the mayor had an initiative where he put, iPads in every classroom. He created so many STEM schools, and so there's a lot of energy happening in this space. One of the challenges was that people are like, oh, but there's a lot going on, but we don't know where it's all happening, or like you kind of have to know the secret handshake and the special password to know that there's the such and such something going on.
Yeah.
So they created, and this is actually run out of one of the community offices out of Northwestern. They run it. It's a platform called Chicago City of Learning. If you Google Chicago City of Learning, it'll pop up, and it's all the opportunities. It's arts opportunities. It's STEM opportunities. It's there's a big push for computing. So girls that code. All the different kinds of coding opportunities. There's some sports opportunities on there. So it's kind of like, what are all the opportunities for elementary, middle, and high school students happening in the city, and where are they happening at, and when are the application deadlines? They have 3 times a year they have jams where you can come and hang out, and then all the organizations show up, and it's all free. It's kind of something that the mayor kind of asked of all these groups that are playing in the STEM space. Can we just have one place where somebody can go and say, where's everything at?
2-question follow-up to this one. Since the inception of what the mayor introduced this STEM program, is there signs of numbers increasing within the minority communities, like in terms of folks that are enrolling or participating in STEM programs? Are there numbers showing, progression?
I honestly don't know, because I haven't been
Okay,
there.
you haven't looked at it.
5 years ago, I started at Argonne.
Yeah.
So I don't have access to those numbers. What I can tell you from my observation is that the conversation has shifted.
Okay.
People from my perspective are knocking on the doors saying, hey, we know that you're available, and we know because we're having conversations in our school, and now we're looking for opportunities and resources.
Absolutely. And then the last follow-up question is that it seemed to me as though there are so many programs for STEM, so many STEM programs for, of course, women, and then younger folks, younger people. I'm wondering if there's much opportunity for older folks who might not necessarily be introduced to STEM but now want to catch up on STEM. Are there opportunities like that for these group of people?
I do know Northwestern, for instance, has the School of Professional Studies, so people that are above the baccalaureate age can enroll in. So I do know some people that enroll in this program during the summer. So they take chemistry classes, they take biology classes, especially if they want a fast route to medical school. So there are opportunities like that. So go to UChicago website and go to Northwestern's website. There are fantastic schools here in Illinois.
Free?
Probably have to pay something.
I'm talking about the free ones because there seems to be a lot of free stuff, right, for younger people. Right. And I understand we have to invest in the younger generation. I perfectly understand that. But I'm also, trying to look at, what if folks out there, because there are, people listening or people getting to catch up on these things and want to take advantage. But if there aren't too many free training facilities or training resources available to them, they'll just be handicapped and not get opportunity. So I'm just asking if there are such things out there. If there are not, if people are listening, let's try and create.
I do know the veterans tend to get, it's not really free. They tend to get a lot of opportunities. So if you're older and you're a veteran, there are probably lots of opportunities out there for you.
Right.
But I'm not sure about those that are not veterans. So
okay.
Yeah, I think there are resources out there. I'm not sure I'm the person to mention they are, but I think if you got a different panel here, there might be somebody who can talk on that.
Yeah. So someone says she loves free stuff. Hopefully, yeah. She says hopefully there is.
All of us do. We do.
Yeah. She says hopefully there is free training for the seasoned folks. Actually, yeah, people who really believe in this. I want us to maybe switch gears a little bit from what we've done, what we've done, and have experience personally in the field of STEM. But before I do that, the phone lines is 773-942-7167. If you want to ask a question or join the conversation, please do so. But I still don't see folks sharing. Okay, so if you're Ines and others, please help share the feed. Johnny Woods. I know if nobody shares, as for you alone, I know you will help me share it. Richard Ampere and the others. Please share the Facebook feed so we can generate more awareness of what we're talking about. Let us see how important STEM is to our development as a community. Let's help create the correlation between STEM and economic development. Maybe Meredith, can you help us create that correlation? I'll come to you, get the two of you. The history, if you can give us a little history, or maybe a little synopsis of how STEM has helped develop the economy of this country.
I don't know if I know that much about this topic.
Well, you don't have to give me
but
numbers.
I can.
Yeah.
What I do know and what I have read. So this would be from my observations of things that I've read.
Yeah.
Is that we are a country of inventions.
Yes.
And so when you talk about STEM, or you take that to technology in a general sense, people will say at one point a pencil was technology, and then another point, an assembly line was technology, and another point, a rotary dial phone was technology, and every one of those inventions requires, things that need to be made, and that requires a piece in a factory over here that needs to build something to get the piece in the phone, right? And so I think when we invent things as a country, that can create more opportunities for jobs to help manufacture those things. So there's a lot of conversation happening in the government private industry space around tech transfer. So Argonne and other places like Argonne are really about that big thinking, trying to just prototype something, think about, we call it technology readiness. And so we're pretty far on the visionary space, because we don't have the capacity to make something to scale. So when we did the Chevy Volt, we were able to create the prototype, but you partner with a place like a car industry and say, well, now you can take it to market. And so there's this conversation about how science can help drive opportunities in markets. When we don't invent things, then we can't make anything. One of the latest and greatest things that is happening is advanced manufacturing. People are trying to figure out how to 3D print things at home. And that's changing the way in which we think about what factory jobs look like, and how do we do all that? And so, these kids that are just making keychains on 3D printers in middle school are going to have jobs right out of college because they've been practicing and understand all of that and figured it out. But, that activity they do at the Museum of Science Industry, where they go into their Tinker Lab and make something, that's going to be something in the future. Somebody's going to go, oh, you know how to do that? I know you don't know this, but I can teach you this other thing to get to that.
Let us know.
All right. And I said a lot. Quickly, did you have a mentor in your journey in STEM?
Oh, yes. I've definitely had many mentors.
Mentors.
Yeah.
And you think it's necessary for everyone that wants to take this journey to have a mentor?
So I think at every stage you need to have a mentor, because when I was in high school, my chemistry teacher was amazing. He really helped me. And then transitioning to college, I've had amazing professors that have really cared about me, even till they will email me once in a while just to check how I'm doing. So do have a mentor. And I think one of the most moment defining times for me in my career has been when I came across a Swedish lady that had both a degree in physics and astrophysics, in chemistry and astrophysics, and that just blew my mind that a lady could do that and at her age, she was below 30, and so that completely changed
and motivated
me that I could do this too.
So you're going to get 2 degrees too?
Let's not talk about that.
Meredith.
So to kind of play off your mentor question,
Yes.
and I totally agree. Like in order to get anywhere, everyone has mentors in every different facets of their space of their life. But what is also equally important is a sponsor. And a sponsor and a mentor are slightly different. A mentor really helps grow you. They know your weaknesses. They have those tough conversations with you. They cheer you up when you're not feeling really good about something, right? But a sponsor comes in and says, you know what, you're pretty awesome for this opportunity. I'm going to help you get there,
Yes.
right? And so thinking about kind of playing off of just if I could add to what you were saying, that when you do get into communities, whether you're a middle school student or a high school student or an undergrad student or a graduate student, you are joining organizations that have opportunities past what you know. Like it's all about networking. And so figure out who's your mentor and who are your sponsors and who can advocate for you in the next moving forward. And I think if you take that mindset of like, I'm walking into this environment and I'm going to learn as much as I can, but who are my allies? Who's going to mentor me? Who's going to sponsor me? And that is how people move through and sustain themselves through to a PhD, right?
It's true. Yeah, just to piggyback on the sponsor thing, because I remember when I was in undergrad, my coordinator, who's more like helped me in terms of sponsoring and things, she connected me with this other lady, and I was able to get like almost $7,000 scholarship, and that was the biggest break I got because the last 2 semesters it was going to be hard for me to pay the tuition, so it's good. What I'll say is like especially for those young kids, nowadays there's YouTube. Start from there. You can start watching all kinds of stuff. I mean, I know people like the music and stuff, but you can watch all kinds of stuff on YouTube. So watch some of these educative shows for kids. Just do kids in science. You can see a lot of things out there. IBM has this thing called Big Idea website. You can go there. They teach all kinds of math and science classes, so you can just follow through and solve it. And then I have a few lists here too. I'm probably going to share. There's out here in Chicago, they have kidsstemstudio.com. It's for kids. IIT right here on the south side, they have a K-12 STEM program to pre-college age. So our parents sign them up quick. And then there's STEM Kids Chicago, and then there's projects Sinker.org, and for me, one of the things that helped me when I was undergrad, I was a McNair scholar, so that one is out there. There's a TRIO program, and please get in there and be great. Thank you.
Oh, man. Look, if you missed this one, you can go back to Progressive Minds page on Facebook, watch it again. Our YouTube channel is also available. It's going through a little bit of construction on Facebook. It's been great coming your way again. We are always humbled and happy to serve you each week in, week out. Next week, 7 to 9 p.m., another interesting one. Don't miss it for anything. God bless you. See you next week. Remember, to whom much. Actually, before I sign off, thank you so much to my guest, Mavis Boama, a doctoral student at Northwestern University in chemistry. And then Meredith Brothers,
Good job.
who is with the National Argon Laboratory. And then I have my brother here, Winfried, Peter Winfried, is also a cloud engineer, computer cloud engineering personality. Guys, thank you all so much. God really bless you. Hopefully we shall be here again. It's the Straight Talk Show, the Igbo Show. Do not miss it. And this has been, again, the Progressive Mind Show. God bless you. See you next week. Bye-bye.